And hello and welcome to another Xterra video where I work on my truck. Sometimes I'm successful, sometimes I'm not. And in today's video I'm gonna be addressing my issue with the bump stumps in the rear on my suspension. Because when I did it, I don't know what I was thinking and I actually didn't put the right bump stop. So after some time and learning more stuff and getting a little bit more knowledge about this, I got a different bump stops and this is what I got. They're much bigger and beefier and I might have to even bring them down lower. We're gonna check that. So let me show you guys what I'm talking about. So this is the current bump stops that I have, guys, and just look at this comparing to this one, how much beefier and better these ones are. And because of all of these, they are sort of progressive bump stops, so as it goes down it also gonna act as a shock absorber, sort of. But probably most of you already know why I have to fix this, because if you look at the distance over here, it's just too much. The shocks I have approximately 4.5 to 5, maybe 5, approximately 4.5 inches of travel in here, whereas on a bump stop I have way over 6 inches of travel. So that means the suspension of the truck will put a lot of weight and pressure on the shocks, a whole 2 inches, that if you were to do some great aggressive off-roading and some huge body articulation, that over time might damage the shocks, and in fact it will damage the shocks, so we don't want that. So I need to reinstall my bump stop and leave about 3.5 inches of a space over here. That way when the truck compresses on either of the sides, this will stop it. It still will press a little bit, but that will keep my shocks intact. So that's what I'm gonna be working on. So to make the life easier, I'm gonna take the tire off. I'm gonna of course lift up the truck, but that way I know I have 6 inches that I have it right now. So by the end I have around 4 inches of space, leave it under 4 inches of space between the bump stop and the axle. That's what I need to achieve today. So I'm gonna take the tire off, and that way I can work there easier and you guys can see what I'm doing as well. Alright guys, and the wheels are out and I'm resting the whole truck on the axle. That way the space over here did not change much. I still have 6 inches over here. That way I can determine how much space I need over here. But even with this one over here, I still gonna have over 4 inches of space. So this needs to be even lower, about maybe 1.5 inches or even 2 inches lower. So I'm gonna have to put some kind of spacer in there. But for now, let me remove this and yeah, we're gonna work with that. So now I used already aftermarket bolts over here, which are 9/16. So just gonna remove all of that. Alright guys, and the old one is out and this is the new one. Let's just compare it again, how much bigger and better it is. So if I was to put it like so in here, that would give me 4.25 inches, which is a little bit too short still. So I need to bring it down. I want it to be at about this high, so 3 inches and slightly shorter than 4 inches I want it to be. So I need it to be like 3.5. That's where I want it to be, because then this still can compress in with a load of an axle, but yeah, with a load of axle. So 3.5, so that gives me 3/4 inch spacer. So I need to make some kind of 3/4 inch of a spacer over here. So let me look into it, let me see what I can do. Now for the spacer, I could use some metal plates over there, just stack them up to make up for 3/4 inch space I need there. But I have this high density plastic which is very hard and it's at the same time it's very light. So, well, it's not light, it's still heavy, but this is a very high density plastic, so and it's exactly what I need, pretty much 3/4 inch. So what I'm thinking, I'm gonna cut 2 pieces of it and use that as a spacer, because it's just gonna be keep it in place. It's not gonna have any breaking point on it because it's gonna be sandwiched together between two pieces. So I think that should be pretty good. So now I'm just gonna mark two pieces that I need for two sides and cut this out. So now I'm gonna try to cut it with this tool. Should cut it no problem. And once again, I'm just gonna connect to my power bank. I already use it so many times for all kind of different power tools, for grinders, Dremels and stuff like that. Really comes handy. All right, let's see if I can cut it straight. Alright guys, and as you can see, I cut it no problem, and I still have plenty of charge left. It pretty much didn't move at all. Nice. Alright, that came out pretty good, and like I said, this is a very hard plastic, so nothing gonna happen to it. So now I can work on marking where I need to make the holes so I can mount this in place, and this is gonna be just like that. It's gonna be pretty good. Let me just double check how much space I have there. 3.5 inches, which is perfect, because this still can compress more as it goes down, so that's pretty good. And right, this is gonna be something like that, guys. So I'm gonna drill two holes now over here, then I'm gonna get two longer bolts, because these ones are gonna be slightly shorter now, of course. I'm gonna put everything in place, make sure that everything fits, and then I'm gonna just clean up the edges a little bit and probably even paint this. But the good thing about this will never rust.
A few moments later.
Alright, and my spacers are done, painted. I don't know, maybe the paint will come off, but it's kind of behind the tires, it's not gonna be visible anyway, so, and it's never gonna rust, so I don't really care. Now the old bolts that I had there, they're gonna be too short, so I picked up new 3/8, 16, 2-inch bolts. As you can see, they're longer. So that's what I'm gonna use now. I'm gonna put a washer there, a lug washer, and a nut, of course. And let's try to bolt it all back in place. To the second side. Let's hope it still all matches and lines up, which it does pretty good. Alright guys, and the new bump stumps with the spacer are installed. And like I wanted, I have about 3.5 inches of space over here, so that should work much better now. So this side is done, and of course this side is done. It's in place, and yeah, it's all good. So now I can put the tires back on, and this is pretty much done. And as always, make sure to torque all the bolts to spec. Now my lug nuts are always torqued to 100 foot-pound of torque, so that's what I'm gonna do. Alright, and that's all good. Alright guys, and it's all done, it's all installed, and I replaced my very small bump stops for much bigger and stronger bump stops. Now if you don't do any off-roading, if you don't do any heavy towing, and you're not bottoming out, you don't really have to worry about that. But if you are off-roading and your tires go all over the place, you should consider how much travel your shocks have, and that's gonna determine how much space between the bump stop and the axle you should have. So that's what I did. I did about 1/2 inch to a less, 3/4 less of space than the travel of a shock. That way when the bump stop touches the axle, it's still gonna compress a little bit, and it's gonna soften up the contact. So as you can see now guys, they're much bigger, they're much beefier, so that should be much better. So now only with the time I'm gonna test it out, and I'll see when and where it's gonna make the contact. Hopefully it's not gonna touch with U-bolts, but we'll see. So as always, I'm gonna leave all the links in the description to these new bumps that I use and the old ones. The old ones are still good, they're just too short for my application because of the lift as well. But depending what you have to consider what you have to get. So anyways guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, I hope you might find it helpful, and as always, until next time, everybody, bye.